Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is top real estate agent Suzanne Perkins of Sotheby's International Realty, based out of Santa Barbara, California. Suzanne has been in real estate for over 25 years, and she has been recognized by the Wall Street Journal as a top producing real estate agent in America for each of the last 10 years. In 2007, she earned the accolade of #1 agent worldwide for Sotheby's International Realty, as well as the #1 agent in the country out of 1.2 million realtors. And in 2012, she was once again named #1 agent in Sotheby's offices in Montecito, Santa Barbara, and Santa Ynez. Her most important sale occurred in January 2007 when she represented the sellers of Cojo and Jalama Ranches in the largest non-commercial transaction in California history, with a combined listing value of an astounding $155 million for the two properties. And in the same year, she represented the seller of the most expensive residential beachfront property in Santa Barbara to that date, listed at $35 million. As for her most notable activities and membership, she became commissioner of the Santa Barbara County Parks Commission in 1992 and was appointed by Governor Schwarzenegger to the 19th Agricultural District Board of Directors in February 2008. In 2010, she was elected chairman of the County Parks Commission. These positions have helped enrich her deep knowledge of Santa Barbara real estate and land use issues. Aside from her success in real estate, she is also an accomplished equestrian and is both a highly respected international judge as well as a breeder of champion Arabian and half Arabian show horses. All right, with all that said, Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith. Good to be here.
Suzanne, if we could start with, what led you into real estate? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or did you maybe stumble into it?
It wasn't something I knew I wanted to do, but I've always been in sales one way or the other since I was in college. I worked for Walt Disney at Disneyland when I was going to college, and I was at the main gate answering questions and giving direction to the visitors there, and I was good at it. And I just kind of bolstered my self-confidence, and that it was something that I really enjoyed doing. After I graduated from college, I saw an advertisement in the LA Times for the Pan American World Airways was hiring. I signed up and went down for an interview and was hired. And was hired mostly because of my experience of having worked at Disneyland while I was going to college. And selling, whether it be Disney or selling Pan American World Airways or selling real estate, it's all the same thing. You believe in what you're selling, and if you're good at it, then you move on to other things. So that's how it all started out.
Excellent, and that's an interesting story. You probably saw thousands upon thousands of people if you're at the front gate of Disney. So that's I guess, talk about interaction and people skills. I mean, you probably dealt with every kind of personality that could possibly come at you, from locals to foreigners to to everything.
The same there at Disneyland, were the same kind of all kinds of different characters and different people when you're flying around the world. And I was on special assignment with the DOD during the Vietnam years, and so I flew in and out of Vietnam for 4 years. If you believe in something, then you sell it. You're always selling something. At least I am. And
Absolutely.
So it was an easy transition. I got married, and my first husband was a horse trainer, and we got involved in really expensive horses, and I sold the horses. So just one thing leads to another, and we had property here in Santa Barbara and decided to put it on the market, and we hired these agents, and I went, I can do this. This is easy. I believe in this property. I want to sell the property, and I did.
And Suzanne, could you talk a little bit about what personal attributes, traits, or qualities you think have most contributed to the success that you've had in real estate?
I think it's a combination of things. And a lot of those things I learned when I was working at Disney and I was working for Pan American World Airways. You have to remain calm, not get agitated or jump the gun when all hell's breaking loose around you. And you need to keep focused on where you want to end up and how you're going to get there. And I think a lot of people don't realize how important that is. And looking out for your client's well-being, it has to be at the very top of the list. It's not your well-being, it's not what you want, it's what the client wants and what's best for the client.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think that in any business, but specifically real estate, I think in any business venture or career or anything somebody does, I like what you said there about focus, because I look back at my own business and my own career, and when I really focus and I really believe, to kind of couple what you said too, if you're really passionate, you believe, and you focus, that you're pretty much unstoppable, But the problem with people is they get distracted and they try to do, because everybody tells you, oh, well, you got to multitask, you got to do 50 things, and people try to diversify versus have that laser focus, have that passion, and people can pretty much do anything they want.
Yeah, and one of the things that's following up on that is people, because we do so many different things, and it's what sometimes it drives my assistants crazy because I'm bouncing around from this escrow to that escrow to this buyer to that buyer. But you've got to be able to swing around as soon as you've got that task taken care of and go back to where it was and that you were focusing on for the day. So you've got to immediately jump back in the saddle, so to speak, and start worrying and taking care of items that you were diverted from for a period of time. And you just can't lose sight of that.
Absolutely. And Suzanne, do you think you could give our listeners another example of when your traits have played a role in your path towards success?
I'm not, I don't get excited. And I think a lot of that came around from learning to stay calm with the airlines. Because when I flew for 13 years for Pan American World Airways, and I had a hijacking, I had a crash, we had a bomb on board, and you have to learn to stay calm in the cabin and to be reassuring for your passengers, because they look to the crew for reassurance when there are emergencies. And if you're not calm, they're not going to be calm. And I think, and that trait, and to be able to stay focused and calm through very difficult transactions is something that I've learned. It was a very easy transition for me from the airlines to real estate.
Wow, I guess that would take a lot. I mean, any one of those I think would frustrate somebody. You talk about crashes and hijackings and bombs. I mean, it's not like you're saying there's a baby crying and you got to try to pacify the mother. I mean, you're talking significant life experiences that most people would probably extreme panic, So I guess, I think that when it comes to building success in any business, not all roads are a smooth path to get there. There's always adversities and trials along the way. So can you talk a little bit about some of the adversities or trials that you had to overcome to achieve your goals in real estate?
Probably the main thing for me, a lot of people get into real estate because they've been in the community and they have a lot of friends, they have a lot of acquaintances, and so it's an easy transition. I got in 1991, and there was no business in 1991. I mean, none. And so I decided that I would focus on an avenue that I didn't see many people being involved in, and that was vacant land. And I felt that the primary reason agents were staying away from vacant land is that it was so difficult. It's a lot more complicated than selling residential real estate. And I started attending planning commission hearings, board of supervisor hearings, board of architectural review, just to get a feel for exactly what I needed to do to be successful in that particular venue. And it was a real learning experience for me because I got into the business, I didn't have contacts. I didn't know a lot of people. We had just moved, we had lived here and moved to California from Denver, and so I didn't have contacts. And a lot of people have a ready-made business plan for themselves because of the contacts that they've made over years or having lived in an area for, 20 or 30 years. So I had to start from scratch, and I got to the point where I was really good at vacant land. And I'm still really good at it, and that's one of the reasons why I do a fair amount of business with ranch land.
Excellent. And I guess kind of on top of that, what kept you going? You know, when you hit these obstacles, obviously, like you said, you dove in, you didn't know a lot of people there. You know, you came from the airline industry, so you had a good head for sales, but, you know, what kept you going when you hit these obstacles? Why didn't you give up? What's your driving force?
Oh, I would never give up. You know, I'm very focused. I believe I believe that I can do something. And if you believe in it, you just can't. I think the more times you hit adversity, for me, I became more determined to surge ahead. And my goal was always to be successful. And I'm a big believer in positive affirmations and saying positive and not letting anything negative deter me. I just don't believe in that. That's the wrong philosophy to have. And I have one client that I bought and sold 38 properties for. And he was one of the first people that gave me a chance, and the reason he did is he saw me at the Planning Commission hearings, at the Board of Supervisors hearings, at Board of Architecture review, and went, you know, this person really is trying to learn this trade and learn the complexities. And so he came up to me and said, you know, I've been watching you, and I want to give you a shot. And so that's how it all started.
Yeah, I mean, that's great where, you know, your drive and your determination got you noticed and gave you a chance, and look what it produced all these years later.
Right.
So I guess kind of looking forward, what's your vision as you look forward for your career in your business over the next 3 to 5 years?
You know, I just try to do, each year I try to be better than the year before. And I just, once the escrow is over, I just keep focusing on what's coming down the pipe for the next one. And, you know, my girls, you know, have gotten to the point where if we don't have enough escrows sitting on their desk, they're like, get out there, get going, you know, we need some more work to do. But I'm the one that's there. I'm constantly thinking about that, always, because you can't just sit back on your laurels. You can't sit back and expect it to come to you. Nothing comes to you by being passive. You've got to be positive and moving forward.
Absolutely. And I guess kind of on top of that, what do you feel is the best way that you market yourself as a real estate professional so that you can have continual growth?
I do a lot on the internet, and my website is very involved, and I'm on my fourth rewrite of my website. I started in 1995, so I was one of the first agents in the area to really get involved in web design and getting properties listed. I think that helps a lot, and always keeping cognizant of the fact that whatever you do, you just can't do it once. You have to do it year in, year out, month in, month out. And it's the same with marketing and print ads. You just can't shotgun blast it and hit splatter it around. You pick a venue and stick to it and do it day in and day out.
I think, Suzanne, when it comes to real estate agents, a lot of times the general public has a perception of when they look at an agent, and I guess everything that they bring to the table and the value that they really add to a deal and selling and buying. So what do you think the biggest misconception or myth that people have about working with a real estate agent is?
I think they think it's easy, that this is an easy job and that we're overpaid. And I don't think most buyers or sellers realize that the commission's nice. I'm really superstitious about the commission and the amount of money I make. I don't talk about it. I don't calculate it when I'm doing an escrow. I really stay away from it because for me, if you start thinking about the money, then you really destroy what you should be thinking about, and that's the transaction and the client and doing the best job for the client. For me, it's all about the client. And there are plenty of transactions where I've made very little compared to what I would normally make because I've had a listing for 7 years or 8 years. And by the time you get around to getting the property, and by the time this property sells, your advertising and marketing costs far exceed the paycheck that you're going to get. So I try not to think about the money.
Excellent. And let's say you get a call from a family member or friend. They're in another state and they want to sell their home. And obviously with your experience and your network, you could probably do a referral or look up somebody for them. But from an advice standpoint, what would you tell them about selecting an agent that could best serve their needs? Kind of how you talked about taking care of your clients and putting them first. What would you tell them to look for in an agent?
There are a couple of things I tell people to do, and even if somebody calls me and wants to talk to me about, and they do a lot, it really comes down to spend some time on the internet, look and see what agents, and spend some time reviewing their web and their bio and what they've done, and then call them up and talk to them. Do they handle the showings themselves? Do they handle the inspections themselves? Do they handle the negotiations themselves? Because I always say, go with an agent that is going to do it all for you. You don't want to hire an agent and then have that agent's assistant showing you the property or their assistant handling the escrow. I do everything myself. As much business as I do every year, I still do all my showings. I handle all the communications with the clients. I do the inspections. I do it all. I don't rely on my assistants are to help me be better at my job and to take the workload off of me in the office so that I can be the person that has the one-on-one with the client.
Excellent advice for everybody to follow. And Suzanne, what specific area, obviously based out of Santa Barbara, California, but what general area do you cover?
Well, Santa Barbara's not that big. We have about 110,000. The city limits is Santa Barbara, and our South Coast area has about 200,000 in it. And I'm mostly Montecito, Summerlin, Carpinteria, Gaviota Coast, Santa Barbara. So I try not to go outside my area where I feel really comfortable. And if they insist, then we'll talk about it. But I generally try to stay within those parameters.
Excellent. And if somebody needs real estate services or an agent in those general areas, what's the best way they can find out more information about you and how you can help them?
Just go to my website, SuzannePerkins.com. There's lots of information on there about me.
Excellent. Well, obviously, Suzanne, we want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and coming here today and sharing all of your professional real estate experience with our listeners. And if you're listening and you want to learn more about Suzanne, like she said, you could visit her website. Also below this interview, we'll have a link to her site as well as any other contact information we have so that you can get in touch with her and see if you guys would be a good fit to work together. So with all that said, everybody, until our next show, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.